Hey, what's up, sports fans? Coming up on the latest episode, we are going to talk all things NBA leading up to and through the All-Star break. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl. We're going to rip on some interesting topics from the world of sports. We're going to have a ton of fun doing it. So everybody, please kick back, relax, raise those glasses, and park those asses because the latest episode of the Sports Syndicate podcast starts now.
I'm Alshon, the same day they signed Tory. The Smith beside me, yes. My wrist is shiny, yes. At all times, catch all signs. Shots fly, no Anakin. Olive Garden, wrap towel fit inside a ramekin. Fucking breadcrumbs, turn breadsticks when that text spit. Cause that marinara is so cute. Safety off, you ain't Joku.
All right, and just like that, here we go. So, welcome back, everyone. I am, as you probably know already, the lunatic fringe of podcasting, the man that bleeds Kelly Green, the South Philly psycho, Dom, and I'm joined by my main man, South Jersey's finest, the man who, as of last night, we learned he doesn't complain, he critiques.
Yes, sir.
The one and only Nick.
Yo, what's good? We talked chamber. I talked wrestling. Probably, what did I say? 5 days out of the 6. Well, 5 out of the 7 days. I can't even speak. Last week, I'm here and we're talking. Why. Yeah, I'm here and we're talking sports. So it's a nice little change in the week of streaming for me. So I'm on board.
Yeah, this is day 4 or 5 straight for me too, so I'm feeling it. But it is still good to be back. It's good to be, talking something other than wrestling. I got my fill of that. Had to get in on my other passions. So we're going to start off, since we're rapidly approaching the game. We're going to start off with the NBA at the All-Star break. And I know we broke down some of the trades that happened. If you can see, I've got the beard in the Sixers jersey behind us today because I'm ready. I'm just ready. It's not like he's reported. I think they said his first game is going to be on the 25th. Ben Simmons is not reported either, but there is definitely some interesting things going on just in the NBA in general. One of them being going into the All-Star break. The Lakers were playing, I believe it was the Jazz, and Anthony Davis went down with an apparent ankle injury.
Yep.
And according to reports, he's going to miss at least 4 weeks. And, I get All-Star break, but there's like maybe 20, 30 games left in the season at this point. So we're well beyond the halfway mark.
Yeah.
And the Lakers are barely a playoff team now, even with LeBron, Westbrook, Davis, you name it.
Yeah.
The question is, are the Lakers actually a playoff team this year? I mean, they were supposed to be good.
Yeah. I mean, if you go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, Nick, do you think when all is said and done, this team is a playoff team?
Yeah, what's similar to other big teams that have a lot of players like they do. They look good on paper, but then when they compete, it's like maybe they don't have the chemistry, maybe they don't have that connection. And of course, you got to factor in the injuries. So I don't think so. I mean, I don't know where they're going to get this second half. After the All-Star, I don't know where they're going to get this boost from, with that injury going into the All-Star break or after the All-Star break. Well, what isn't it yesterday or today? I know yesterday was the or the dunk competition.
Oh yeah, yesterday they had the dunk and the 3-point shootout, and tonight is the All-Star game, and then they get back to the rest of the games this coming week.
Yeah. So no, I don't think so.
Yeah,
it's a shame because they didn't make any trades either. So like they're at fault.
Yeah, that's one thing. You brought up injuries, which is something that has plagued the Laker team itself. Anthony Davis more than anyone. I mean, if you go back to the day he walked in the door to LA a few years ago, he's missed basically like 1 out of every 3 games since he showed up.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you don't hear much about it. You hear more about like Embiid with his nagging back injury, not playing in back-to-back games sometimes, or sitting out for a while because it flared up. But Anthony Davis probably misses more time than Joel Embiid. Like honestly, and
Yeah.
I was joking with Nick before we got on because he's had a long week of podcasting. I've had a long week of podcasting, but sometimes the greatest ability is availability. Like,
Yeah.
doesn't matter. You're run down, you're tired, whatever. Just cowboy up, get on the court or get behind the mic and do what you got to do. And if Anthony Davis can't do that,
Yeah.
and the Lakers have spent all this money on him and LeBron, and now they're throwing money out the door for Westbrook, who has dropped off considerably. Like, they're not a deep team behind him.
No. And I think the question is even next year, too. I mean, even with all these big names, are they a playoff contender? I mean, they have the greatest, NBA player in the past 10 years playing on their team. That should be enough to attract people. But attracting guys like Westbrook, who, let's be honest, was never absolutely amazing on his own. He was good when he had other players, He looked really good.
Yeah.
And then even
he's ever really been on a team like on his own, like started out with Durant and Harden, then moved on to Houston with Harden, then went, in between had Melo and Paul George on the Thunder with him. Closest thing was maybe Washington, but they had Bradley Beal, who's a tremendous talent.
Yeah.
And he's never been on his own. And the more he moves from team to team, it seems the worse he gets. And the more it's about him.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I got to get my numbers. I got to get my shots up. It doesn't matter if we win as long as I look good doing it.
Yeah, it's kind of like that selfish wrestler. I know I go back to wrestling a lot since we have a podcast, but it's that selfish wrestler that wants to get all his spots in. It's like, no, you're out there, you're working together. Let's make a clean, great fight. And it just seems like it's always about him, regardless of anything. So
we're looking at you, Cody.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm kind of joking.
Yeah, but honestly, I don't know what the future looks like. With the Lakers, I mean, they still have money coming in every single possible avenue, so that's a plus. But they're not putting on a good show, so to say, on the court, and it's showing. And
but I think you hit on that and the fact that like they did nothing at the trade deadline.
Yeah,
nothing. Like, there were a couple of big men on some bad teams that they could have went and got. And if something happened to Anthony Davis, then you plug these guys in and maybe you tread water for 4 weeks until he comes back or you get on a roll. But they didn't do that either. And it stands to wonder, like, I want to say they're not a playoff team, but then when you look at the league with all the play-in tournaments and games that they take like 10 teams from each conference.
Yeah.
It's a 30-team league. 2/3 of it is going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I would say maybe they have a shot at being like a 10 seed or like a play-in option, but I don't think they're going to be like a traditional top 8 playoff contending team. Whereas going into the season, they were one of the perennial contenders to win the Western Conference with like Golden State and that sort of thing. So I don't know. It's gonna be a rough go for them, and they're gonna need LeBron to get back into like God mode,
Yeah.
And I know he's still great. I just don't know if he has that anymore. He even mentioned something because the All-Star break and everything is in Cleveland, and he has his own team in the All-Star game, and he mentioned there's still a possibility I could come back here, and it's like, really, you want to do that for a third time?
Yeah, just go away, dude.
It's like, now that they're a playoff team and you're not on one, now you're like, oh, I could go back to Cleveland.
Yeah.
Like, how fitting when it suits you. Oh, bring me back.
Yeah, it's just odd. I mean, I think it just shows with the Lakers. It's just like, come on. You got the money. I understand the cap space and all that. I get it. I honestly do. But you got to try. I mean, even if you have the big three or big four or big whatever. It's like, well, you still have to try. It doesn't matter if you're the Lakers or the Yankees. You know, the Yankees every year, they're always there. They may not make it to the playoffs, but they're always trying to make moves. Not trying, they make moves, even though they're, the
I mean,
richest team, most
they're gonna spend
successful
a ton of
team.
money regardless of whether they're first, last, or anywhere in between. They're gonna spend whatever they got to spend to be in
Yeah,
contention. And I'm not saying that the Lakers don't. I just think maybe, just maybe, they made some poor decisions with this
yeah.
team,
When they can't get out of the hole, so to say.
and now they're stuck in it.
Yeah,
Like the Westbrook is one of the guys they're stuck with, and I
yeah,
even agree with what Brian is saying. Like there are players that also pass to get assists, or this and that. And the other guy, put guys in a better position.
yeah,
Russell Westbrook has been a selfish player forever, and
yeah,
that's true. I mean, the guy is very athletic and talented, and he's a triple double machine. But then at the same time,
yeah,
he also wants to put up a ton of shots. He
yeah,
also makes it a lot about him. It's one of the reasons the Lakers took him out of the starting lineup. It was like, dude, we can't do this.
yeah,
And when that's your big name free agent in the offseason and you're pulling him from your starting lineup,
yeah. It's not good.
you're in trouble.
It's a
So
no-go.
it's definitely going to be interesting for the Lakers. And obviously we talked about the trade a little bit, when with James Harden and Ben Simmons in our last episode. The Nets are another one that's definitely interesting. I mean, you still got KD coming back from an injury. Then you don't know, Ben Simmons says he's going to report. They haven't announced when he's going to play. They said he did show up to practice, which is something that he didn't do in Philly.
Yeah,
And now Kyrie Irving is all of a sudden getting, mentioned by NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, where he says he understands, where New York is coming from with the vaccination mandates and that sort of thing. But at the same time, if away teams can come in and they have unvaccinated players and those teams can play in Brooklyn, how can Kyrie Irving be held out?
exactly.
And while I don't care where you stand on,
Yeah,
vaccinations and your status and that sort of thing, I never looked at that because I thought the mandate was like, if you're not vaccinated, you don't play. It doesn't matter if you play for the Nets or you're coming to Brooklyn or whatever.
yeah,
Turns out if you're unvaccinated from another town and you come to Brooklyn, you can play in the Barclay Arena. Kyrie Irving can't because he lives there.
yeah,
I don't understand that.
yeah. It's weird.
I don't get that at all.
Yeah,
Like you gotta shit or get off the pot, New York. I don't know what you're trying
yeah,
to accomplish here with these public venues, because even if you hold so many people out, there's still people coming in that aren't vaccinated. And
yeah,
then what does that say? It's one way or the other. Either you have to get vaccinated or we're just letting people in.
yeah. I mean, I think you said it perfectly. I mean, it's just odd. I know the restrictions, and I know why there's harder restrictions in New York. It just makes sense. It's just common sense there. But when it comes to an organization, when it comes to a business, it's got to be fair. If he's vaccinated, then everybody else has to. Vice versa. If he doesn't need to be, then not. Everybody doesn't have to be. So it's one or the other. It can't be, left and right, something like that. It needs to be consistent, and doesn't seem like the rules are consistent.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it just seems odd that that's the way they're doing it. And if that's how you're
Yeah,
going to play it, then just either cross it off the board or
yeah,
bring it to a point where it's consistent across the board. Like, okay, how many of your players aren't vaccinated? They can't come in.
exactly. Go do it that way too.
And of course, there was another headline from Brooklyn this week. Shortly after the trade and Ben Simmons coming in, Shaq was asked about it on Inside the NBA,
Yep.
and he gave his take on Ben Simmons, and there were some people who were a little upset about it.
Yeah.
But I've got the quote up here, and I'll try to sum it up because Shaq tends to go in.
Yeah.
But basically, what he was saying was like, even as a superstar in the NBA, which Shaq was. You don't always get your way. There's always going to be somebody saying something about you that can get under your skin. In this case, Doc Rivers said something about him after a playoff game, and he got upset. Then there was backlash, and then he started with the mental health stuff. Shaq said, and I quote, "There's a difference between mental health and mental fortitude." I'm not comparing him to me, but you don't think I ever heard like we can't win with Shaq. You don't think I've ever heard Shaq's not worth $120 million.
Yeah.
You don't think I ever heard don't throw it to Shaq, D Wade, take the shot.
Yeah.
I've heard it all. I've processed it all. And what makes us great is we learn how to persevere around all of that.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not getting on anybody who struggles with mental health. I've seen real mental health issues. I just wonder sometimes if this has more to do with mental fortitude than mental health when it comes to this kid. I guess the question here is like, do you agree with him?
Yeah.
Because he called a ton of flack for this. Just bringing up mental health the way that he did, he called a ton of flack for this.
Yeah. And we're fortunate enough that we can be able to go live on YouTube and have a conversation about this. And we have to, as a podcaster, we have to, be professional and walk that line. And I do the best I can. But I tend to agree with Shaq, and I understand. I truly do. It hit us hard, mental health in my family. So I don't want to go there, but I can't. I don't want to say sympathize because it didn't happen to me, but I was a part of it, and I know what's real, and I know I guess I think I know what's real and what's fake. We'll never know. This is a stunt. This could be a stunt where Ben Simmons really, has issues. It needs to be helped. But Shaq hit on all the points. We don't know if Simmons wanted to really do something about mental health. He would be posting on Instagram donations. He would be discussing it at the press conference that it's not about me. Yeah. It's about getting help. Here's a number. Like, he should be more proactive. He's never been proactive about this, this issue. I'm the victim here. And again, I want to walk this fine line.
That's the thing. It feels more like he wants to play the victim than he wants to, push the envelope or put mental health to the forefront. I don't know if you remember him, but there was this guy. He was a wide receiver for like the Bears, the Broncos, and Dolphins. His name was Brandon Marshall.
Yeah,
and I think
he has a podcast.
He has a podcast. He used to do Inside the NFL on, I think it was HBO or something like that. Showtime,
something. Yeah. No,
one of those pay channels. Yeah. But he used to always put his struggles with bipolar disorder out there.
Yeah.
And then he also created his own charity for it. He would wear like the colored armbands for bipolar awareness. He would do all this stuff. So he wasn't just making himself the victim.
Yeah.
It was, I have this, lots of people have this. I'm just trying to put it out there so people can see, like, it doesn't matter if you're an NFL superstar or just regular guy sitting in the back of your house doing a podcast. You could have something wrong, all the same.
Yeah.
Ben Simmons this entire time has made it out like, oh, poor me, because my coach said this and now my team is doing this and this and that and the other. But he never once pointed the finger back at himself.
Yeah.
And that's where this situation, like Shaq said, feels more like mental fortitude than mental health. I don't know. I don't know Ben Simmons personally. No. I don't know. I don't have any sources. I'm just going off of what I've seen and whatever. I am giving an educated guess.
Yeah. And we're fortunate enough to be able to do that.
And if you disagree with it, please feel free to leave it in the comments or the comments below or whatever the hell. We'll talk about it. But at the same time, I think Shaq hit it. There were times on this show where I said something very similar to that. Like guys like LeBron, when they came in, he was not the most well-rounded player. He was very young. he had a lot of spotlight thrown on him, and
More.
people critiqued the living shit out of LeBron James. Like every move he made, it was,
Yeah.
oh, he can't shoot a jumper. Oh, he needs to work on his free throws. Oh, he can't lead a team to a championship. He can't be the face of the NBA. Yada 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 yada. Even his own coaches would call him out at times, like Doc Rivers did with Ben Simmons. And to this day, I don't think Doc Rivers called him out. He was asked a question, he gave an honest answer. Do you think you could win without Ben Simmons? I don't know.
Yeah.
How is that calling somebody out or throwing somebody under the bus?
Yeah.
How would he know? All he's had at point guard is Ben Simmons.
Exactly.
So he said, I don't know, because this is what I've got to work with. And I don't know if he was not here, if I could do better or worse or anything else. Now, maybe this season proved that he can win without him. But up until where he was standing at that moment, after being eliminated from the playoffs in upset fashion in the Game 7 where Simmons struggled and being asked that question, he could have gone off. He could have been all in his feels. He could have thrown all the blame at Ben Simmons. He didn't do that. He just said, I don't know.
Yeah.
And Ben Simmons took offense to that. Again, that feels more like mental fortitude.
Yeah.
When something like that, when I don't know, gets in your head and under your skin that much, that's not illness.
Yeah. And I think let's even go back to the press conference, because I watched it. It was a short press conference. It was about 20 minutes, and he didn't say one thing. Like, I'm going to go back and say it because I really believe this. He didn't say anything about his charity work, what he did after, when he was home, when he was not playing on the court. He didn't say that he was, he has so much money. He could have done something. He did absolutely nothing to make awareness for his issues. And if you want to be a strong player, if you want to be one of those types like LeBron James or just anyone, you get up and you talk about it, even if it's awkward, even if it's something if you're uncomfortable with, because you don't want people to go through that the same way you did. And it just doesn't seem like there's any empathy for his situation about him. And I mean, I'm pretty much done talking about Ben Simmons.
No, you're good. I mean, you nailed it. He basically did for, mental health what he did for the Sixers, which was nothing. He sat at home.
Exactly.
And
show it.
Maybe things work out for him in Brooklyn. Maybe they don't.
Yeah.
But either way, if this is your mentality, like right now, today, even walking into Brooklyn with fresh scenery,
yeah,
you're not going to get very far.
Yep.
Because you don't feel the need to do anything other than sit on your couch, which means you're going to come up with excuses. You're not going to work on your game. You're going to continue to kind of decline. And who knows if somebody's going to give you another opportunity past this point.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you don't get it, that is completely on you. That has nothing to do with Doc Rivers. That has nothing to do with the Philadelphia organization. That has nothing to do with anybody in Brooklyn, Steve Nash, his teammates, whatever the fuck. That is on you. Something that you don't seem to notice. You want to point your finger at everybody else, but you never once look in the mirror and go, you know what? I could be working on this. Or I could be doing something to further my cause, or I could be doing something to get into people's good graces, and I'm not doing it. You're always saying it's Doc, or it's this, or it's that, or it's something out here. You're never going here.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for us to be proactive, like we said, we're fortunate enough to have a podcast, and we're able to go on each and every week and discuss sports. Let's be honest here. If you need help, if you have any issues, you need, you can reach out to us. You can reach out to, you can just Google it, Google mental health, and there's going to be a hotline. You have Universal Wrestling, you have Top Rope. DM us. We're here to help you. That's important.
Absolutely.
That's important.
Just a quick shoot for people that don't know. Our Facebook group does a mental health Monday post every week.
Yeah.
So if somebody's struggling, they can come and just vent it and hear what people have to say, or ask for help, or do whatever they need to do. Like, these are things that I've had family members struggle with. And when I say to Ben Simmons, you got to look at yourself, I'm speaking from experience.
Yeah.
As a recovering addict, I was one of those selfish people, and I was always pointing the finger at somebody else, but I never looked at what I was doing. And when I did,
Yeah.
I ended up here, which is a much better place than I was
Exactly.
years and years ago
Yeah.
before I got help. So if you need it, you get the help, and don't be afraid to look at yourself and say, what am I doing? Am I making this situation better or worse?
Yeah.
What's wrong with me? Because no
Yeah.
one is perfect. I don't care if you're as talented as Ben Simmons or if you couldn't hit the broadside of a barn door with a basketball like me these days.
That's me.
Nobody's perfect. So look at what you're
Yeah.
doing. Reach out for help if you need it.
Yeah.
There's no shame in any of it. I would not be
Exactly.
here if I hadn't done it.
Exactly. Reach out. That's all that
So
matters.
I'm a huge supporter in if you need the help, get the help. But at the same time, I don't want people to just say, "Oh, I have mental health issues," just to
Yeah.
sweep something else under the rug.
Exactly.
So I'm going to cover both bases in one statement.
There you go. You just hit a homer there, brother.
And going back to the Lakers, Brian brought up that they got rid of guys like Alex Caruso, who was like one of those linchpins off the bench.
Yeah.
And since they let him go, they're done. And look at what he's done for a team like the Bulls.
Bulls.
And I got to be honest, I mean, the Bulls have a squad this year. Finally, I think for the first time since Derrick Rose won an MVP, it looks like the Bulls are legitimate contenders. Like,
Yeah.
DeMar DeRozan is in the running for MVP for me. Zach LaVine has always been a great player. They got guys like Alex Caruso and Nikola Vujacic, and just added to what they already had, and they improved in leaps and bounds from last season. So, this kind of thing can happen in the NBA if you're willing to actually look at the talent. Like, they could have gotten Westbrook. They could have gotten this guy and that guy. They went, you know what? We'll take DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah.
And that dude is a monster. Like, he's having an incredible season. His season is probably 10 times better than Westbrook's, hence why Chicago is where they are.
Yep.
So, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with after the season. And of course, we got to get to the Sixers because I already mentioned, James probably won't play till next week. But the thing that I loved about it, their last game before the All-Star break, they played defending champs without Harden. He was sitting on the bench that night, just in street clothes. And there was a point in the second quarter where they took a timeout and the team comes to the bench and Tyrese Maxey comes in and James Harden puts his arm around him and starts talking about, you need to do this, that, and the other, and blah, blah, blah. And he's coaching the kid up on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Timeout's over. They get back on the court. And I swear in a 5-minute span, Tyrese Maxey hit like 6 shots in a row and put up 14 points. And James Harden, on one of the shots, the layups he hit where he got fouled, jumped off the bench and said, "That's what I'm talking about. Thank you."
Yeah. Beautiful.
That is what I want on this team.
Yeah.
That is what I've been looking for this whole time. That is what Jimmy Butler was when we were one shot away from the NBA Finals. The
Yep.
veteran guy who's been there and done that and can work with young talent and can even get more out of the stars we have, like Joel Embiid, while still being able to produce his own numbers.
Yeah.
And that is what I feel like I saw even before he stepped on the court in that game against the Bucks, where shorthanded we did beat them in Milwaukee going into the All-Star break.
Yeah.
With him basically just, talking to guys like Tyrese Maxey and, the guards on the sidelines during timeouts, they seem to play so much better.
Yeah.
They beat the defending champions without him.
Yeah.
And without Seth Curry because he got traded, and without, as depleted as they were without him, still managed to get that win, still managed to go into the All-Star break with a little bit of momentum, and are now sitting like 2-3 games out of first place.
Yeah.
Before he even shows up.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. I don't know if there's much more that I can say. It's that veteran presence that we need. As much as Doc Rivers is good and he's been there and he's done that, I think the players help more. And obviously, as much as Embiid is a presence there, he's not a veteran. And let's be honest, he's good as he's probably one of the best, if not top 5 right now, top 3 to be honest. But it doesn't matter how great you are; you need that veteran presence. That's why That's why Nicky Foles was so important for us. That's why Fletcher Cox was so important because
exactly.
that's that veteran presence. Carson Wentz was 2-3 years into his career, and it's just
I mean,
it's
no
confident.
offense,
Yeah,
no offense to anyone on the Eagles coaching staff or roster, but look at where that offense and that team went after a guy like Frank Reich left to become the Colts head coach.
yeah,
This guy is a veteran quarterback, a veteran coordinator. He was the glue that held the staff and those players together because he had more experience coaching than Doug Peterson. He had more experience playing than Doug Peterson.
Yeah.
And when he left, the team's offense went downhill, the team's record came down, and the next thing you know, the team is blowing up.
That's why I've always thought, even with Joe Flacco, I know we're getting into football and we're talking about basketball, but I always thought there needs to be that veteran quarterback that's been there or been close enough to understand what it takes. And vice versa when it comes to, the NBA. There needs to be that guy on the bench. I don't know if he's going to be the veteran presence. I don't know if that was something to show the crowd and to show the press that, hey, I'm trying to become, that presence here. Or was it just like, for the media?
Well,
I don't know.
I went back and I looked into it afterwards, and Tyrese Maxey in an interview had said after James Harden came to Philly, had his press conference and walked off, he came to the practice court because they were having a shoot around, and after the shoot around, Maxey went and spoke to him and said, "Listen, dude, I know everybody knows who you are. You have so much to give to this team. I want to learn everything I can from you." And immediately Harden said, "All right, he said, can you stick around after shoot around and I'll show you some things." And Maxey was like, "Hell yeah." So then after the shoot around, Maxey and Harden spent like another hour on the court, and Harden was showing him moves and certain ways to get shots off and all this other stuff on day one. Like 20 minutes after his presser, he's then working after the shoot around with Tyrese Maxey, and he's been working with the guys in and after practice, and he's been talking to them on the sidelines before he even suits up.
Yeah. Do you think Ben Simmons would have done that?
How can you do that from your couch? Are they zooming his ass at home? "Hey, Ben, what should I do now?"
And even if you wanted to reverse the roles, Ben Simmons wouldn't have reached out to a veteran and say, let's hang out and let's do some more. Teach me.
Because that was the thing too. When Jimmy Butler came in, Brett Brown was an experienced coach from the San Antonio sideline who had won championships, and so obviously this guy knows his shit.
Yeah,
but he would kind of like lay off Ben Simmons a little bit because of their personal relationship. And even with what he was doing with Joel Embiid, it never really came to fruition until a guy like Butler came in there because he was a veteran who could be that presence and that voice amongst the players to say,
reasoning.
"No, I need," looking at Joe and saying, "No, I need you in the paint. And when they double down, get it to me. I'm open. I got you, yada, yada, yada." And just lead that team through on the court, because there's only so much a coach can shout from the sidelines that you're even willing to hear in the middle of a basketball game.
Exactly.
And so when you have a guy next to you who's telling you like, "Yeah, that was great, but next time do this," or take this guy on a switch or whatever, like guiding you through as the game is going on the court.
Yep.
It makes all the difference. And it was what made the Sixers better. The problem was Ben Simmons had issues with Jimmy Butler because he wanted the ball. He wanted to be a leader. He wanted to do this and that. And Ben Simmons thought that was him.
Yeah.
That was never him. Never.
Exactly.
And so we traded Jimmy Butler, and now you see where we are. So to get a guy like James Harden who comes in here and makes more of an impact in one day this season than Ben Simmons did, and hasn't even suited up yet, I'm cool with it. You can say we lost the trade all you want. I consider it a win already. Yeah. I've seen it in Tyrese Maxey's play. I've seen it in the energy these guys brought, being shorthanded on the road. The last game before the All-Star break, I'm sure most guys just wanted to take some time, rest up, heal up, get ready for All-Star festivities because Embiid was going, Maxi's in the skills challenge and the futures game and all that. And they're just like, man, they could have walked in there and be like, man, I'm over this. I don't even want to do this.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
Nope.
They showed up, they showed out, they got a huge win, and then now we're just waiting for him to get on the court. But already he's made more of an impact.
Yeah. Yeah. He's not
complaining. Tell me we lost that trade.
He's critiquing.
He's coaching. He's just like, yo, dude, this is what you need to do. And then 2 seconds later, dude goes out and it works.
It's what you want to see. And again, I don't think there's much more that I have to say that you didn't say. We won. That's it. Simmons is gone. We won. He needs
Simmons
to go.
Is gone.
Yeah.
The guy that's in there is actually working with the talent already and trying to get acclimated as fast as possible and wants to be on this team and win.
Yes.
And contribute in every way he possibly can, even if it means working with his fellow players. We won.
Yeah. Well, I even look at it this way too. If Ben Simmons is, champion, he has like 5 rings and he's made 8 million All-Stars. It's still a win for us because he's out of town. That's it. Yeah. As much as that's selfish and it's very odd to hear, it's a win, regardless. If he's the next MJ, maybe. But let's be realistic. I don't think that's going to happen.
It also lands a bona fide star on the court with Joel Embiid.
And you can't teach that,
And Embiid wasn't ready for Jimmy Butler. He was still, on his way up. But if you ask me this season, the way he's been playing, the way that team's been winning despite all this, Joel Embiid is your MVP this year. He's the second leading scorer in the NBA. He's averaging over 12 rebounds a game. He's shooting close to 40% from the 3-point line.
Yeah.
What else do you want the guy to do? There is no one more valuable. You take him off that team, and they are tanking for draft picks. You put him on, and all of a sudden you see the difference. They are now, 2 games out of first, and he is having the season of his career.
Yeah, I agree.
So they're gonna be interesting moving forward. I'm definitely, shifting towards the NBA a little bit more with football season being over. But speaking of the season being over,
what a great segue.
I gotta congratulate the LA Rams. God, that was a hell of a Super Bowl. That was a tremendous comeback.
Yeah.
Give me your thoughts on the actual game itself, because I've got so much to say and I don't want to steal everything. So I'm going to let you go.
I think it's one of those games that you want to be a Super Bowl. It was competitive. It was since he was climbing back in, they started, down. They were climbing back in, and it looked like they were going to win the game. And there's some penalties you can agree to disagree on. But at the end of the day, the game was competitive. I think the best team won, to be honest. As much as I was pulling for Cincy, who day, I think the Rams, all together, coaching, as you can tell, defense, quarterback, maybe as we speak, veteran Stafford was better that day than Burrow. Yeah. But I don't know career-wise, but I'm just talking about the big game.
Well, we'll say his offensive line was definitely better.
Yeah. I think if we're putting top 5 halftime shows, I think that's top 3. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was something that they were missing for years. I understand the Bruce Springsteens and the Justin Timberlake.
No, some of them are very good, but they're also very PG. They've been a little worried about getting edgy since years ago when Janet Jackson's titty came out.
Well, honestly, and honestly, they were catering to a white audience, and I just, as much as I love Bruce and I love pop music, I just not my cup of tea. I rather see Eminem. I rather see,
I definitely rather see Dre and Snoop. I grew up on Dre and Snoop, so
exactly. And even Fitty was a nice surprise. It was my kind of music, my kind of entertainment. That's what I'm trying to say. I like
the vampire bat thing from 50 Cent when he came out, like hanging upside down. That was a little weird. But other than that, I thought it was good.
I
I thought it
get
was
what
good. It
they
would
were.
probably been my favorite halftime show had they done the Tupac hologram like they did at Coachella. But it's
Yeah,
definitely top three in my opinion too. I love seeing Dre again. You know, people who don't follow him might not know that he had some severe health problems before pandemic, and then it didn't get much better, and he's finally now recovering.
yeah,
And so to see him looking the way he looked and
yeah,
outperforming and everything else was like, okay, this feels good. That's the Dre I know. Okay.
yeah,
Welcome
yeah,
back, Doc. But I
yeah,
mean, the game itself, at least I was right that it was going to come down to a field goal.
yeah.
And yeah, Brian, you know what? The probably my favorite Super Bowl show of recent history was Prince at
Prince.
Super Bowl 41 in Minnesota.
Yeah, just my
That
cup of
that
tea.
was
Yeah,
perfect. Like, you know, it's his hometown. He's playing. You know, you couldn't get any better than that. God rest Prince's soul.
Minnesota.
But the game itself, I said it was going to come down to a field goal. I never gave a score. It did, and it looked like the Rams had control to begin the game, and then the Bengals started to come back. And when OBJ went down without being touched and was, you know, helped off the field and not putting pressure on his knee, I was like, oh, they're done.
Yeah,
Because he had just caught, you know, he had a long touchdown pass prior to that drive, and you know, he was
yeah,
on his way to maybe winning Super Bowl MVP when that happened. And
yeah,
the Bengals had already kind of shifted the momentum. And then the second half started, and they started like just they came out on fire. And I thought, this is it. This is where the Rams get blown out. And they did. They fought back, and they climbed back without OBJ, without any sort of running game, because I think that they averaged less than 2 yards a carry.
yeah,
This was all Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp, and they willed that Rams team, at least offensively, to that victory. Aaron Donald certainly helped. The defense certainly helped, sacking Burrow 7 times.
incredible.
But at the end of the day, it came down to we need a drive, and Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp put it together and got it done.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what? Good. I'm glad. I'm glad Matthew Stafford finally had success and got a ring in 1 year, because he toiled away in Detroit for well over a decade.
Yeah,
Oh, it was Miami. My bad. I thought it was in Minnesota. It was Miami. I
yeah,
apologize. But you know, after all the numbers he put up on a horrible team, all the Pro Bowls he made, you know, everything, to finally be able to break through and have a successful season, win a Super Bowl, everything else just proves that this guy is a great quarterback. I mean, I know people don't want to admit it, but
yeah,
Matthew Stafford is a great fucking quarterback. He's done more with shitty Detroit teams than Baker Mayfield has ever done with the Cleveland Browns, and their roster has been far superior every year.
yeah,
You can say whatever you want to say about Matthew Stafford's shortcomings, but you can't deny he is a great pocket quarterback. Everybody talks about Mahomes and the way he changes his delivery and this, that. Matthew Stafford was the first to do it
yeah,
on the regular. He was the first to sidearm it or do whatever he had to do to get the ball into the receiver's hands. People seem to forget that.
yeah,
So for him to finally break through was a fantastic moment. And for the Bengals, there's no shame in any of that. You were a team that literally was not supposed to be here, who walked in as, I know they said you were the home team, but you're playing the Rams in LA.
yeah,
You're not the home team. You had to travel to LA. You're not the home team. They live there. And you put on a hell of a fight. You had a lead. You were up with 3 minutes left, and you know, the Rams managed to do enough to make a comeback. There's no shame in that. I think Zach Taylor got an extension off of that.
yeah,
You know, it's like you don't even need to hang your heads or think like, well, this is as good as it's ever going to get, because this team can only grow from here.
Yeah.
And Burrow's barely played 2 years. Jamar Chase was a rookie. T. Higgins is going into his third year. Like, everybody on that team
Yeah.
has
Put
so
up.
much more potential in them, and you've already reached the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, not seeing Tom Brady there and having two teams and a lot of players that I pull for or that I pulled for made that Super Bowl so much better. I was pulling for Cup. I was pulling for Stafford. I was pulling for OBJ as much as he has a lot of haters because I just think he needs that time and I think he was given the a great team to be on. Vice versa when it comes to Cincy, that underdog story, Taylor, I mean Burrow, I mean the list goes on. Jamar, I mean you said it. It was a really great Super Bowl, and it was very easy to watch because I didn't care because for the
Isn't
longest
that
time,
what I was saying
anyone
with
but Tom.
Bruce and Ivan? Like, yeah, have a great game. I don't care who wins. Not a fuck given. Go ahead.
Yeah, Tom Brady wasn't there. I'm happy. That's it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, you were in the same boat with me. Like, either team can win as long as the game is good. I don't have a horse. Not a fuck given. Impress me. And both teams went out and impressed me. It's going to be interesting because we talked a little bit over the course of the season of the show about, like, once the team is eliminated or once their season is over, what do they do?
Yeah.
Going into next year. The Rams are going to be interesting. And first and foremost, I got to give a shout out to the owner, Stan Kroenke, because he went up to make his speech in the parade, and he took full responsibility for trading away all those draft picks and bringing in these guys to win now and everything else. And he said, I will do it every time. Fuck them picks. And I thought, that is a beautiful fucking mentality.
Yeah.
It's fine. You got a first round draft pick. Maybe you can add to your team. Maybe the guy works out. Maybe he doesn't. But if you can get rid of those picks and you can bring in a Matthew Stafford or a Von Miller or a Jalen Ramsey or whatever, a guy that
Odell,
is like, when it comes to their position, these are all at least top 5 guys.
Yeah.
Like, Odell potentially is a top 5 receiver in the league. Matthew Stafford is a top 5 quarterback. I know people don't want to admit that, but he is. Jalen Ramsey might have, when they traded for him, might have been the best corner in the league.
Yeah.
And even if that costs you a first round draft pick, that's worth it. You can't tell me that, like, with all the fiddling that a team like, I don't know, we know Devin very well. So a team like the Chicago Bears, they've traded up and down the draft board. They've brought in different quarterbacks. They've done this and that. You mean to tell me they wouldn't rather package some draft picks and get Matthew Stafford, or go get OBJ when he gets waived because you have Matthew Stafford, or trade for Von Miller, as opposed to some of these guys that you drafted that honestly didn't pan out?
Yeah.
You think any of these teams, I mean, even the Eagles, so you drafted Carson Wentz high, but if you could have traded that draft pick for Matthew Stafford, would you have done it? Hell yeah. And if Jalen Ramsey was available, would you trade a first rounder? You should. If OBJ is sitting there and you have Matthew Stafford, are you going to sign him when he clears waivers? Yes.
Yeah.
Because the guy who was Aaron Donald before Aaron Donald was Fletcher Cox. So wouldn't you want to put somebody like Von Miller next to him if you thought you were in contention for a Super Bowl?
Yes. I mean, duh.
I mean, they did the same sort of thing with a guy like Chris Long being a pass rusher just to add to Fletcher Cox and some rookies, and it worked for them. It won them a Super Bowl. They traded for Jay Ajayi that year when their running game was pretty good, and it just made it better. And so, while building your team in the draft, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. Sometimes you got to just say fuck them picks, because the guy is out there and you can get him. And if you give up a first round pick, you're never going to regret it.
Exactly.
They are never going to regret those picks they gave to Detroit for Matthew Stafford. They are never going to regret the picks they gave up for Von Miller. They're never going to regret the picks they gave Jacksonville for Jalen Ramsey. And by the way, how's Jacksonville doing without Jalen Ramsey and those picks?
Exactly. Again, you're saying everything that I am thinking. I don't want to be repetitive, but
All right, so I'll get to
at,
you for this one. What do you think the Rams need to do in the offseason to try and defend this championship? Because obviously they got Odell off waivers, so I think
yeah,
he's going to be a free agent, and he might have damaged his ACL against the same team that he tore his ACL
yeah,
a few years ago
yeah,
with. So there's that. Aaron Donald has talked a little bit about retirement.
yeah.
You know,
Fine.
this team might get priced. If you're the Rams, where do you focus at this point? Like,
Yeah.
who do you bring back? Who do you let go? What position do you think they need to work on?
Yeah, I mean, it starts from this one place, and I think it's younger players. As much as they do not care about those draft picks, Von Miller is getting old. Donald is getting old. I
Mm,
mean, old as in NFL age. I know
yeah.
they're young, age wise, number wise, but NFL, that's it. 3 to 5 years is the max. See, help me, max for players to,
Oh yeah, like their
yeah,
prime is
yeah,
usually a 3 to 5 year window.
yeah,
It depends on the position. Sometimes as a defensive lineman, or
yeah,
like Aaron Donald, you can stay around a little longer.
yep,
But if if you're a quarterback and you're not getting beat up like Matthew Stafford did
yeah,
get too beat up this year, maybe you stick around a little longer. But your
yeah,
prime is usually about a 5 year window, unless you're a running back.
yeah, that's true. Honestly, I think they just need to, do well in the draft as much as they, lost a lot of picks. I think they do really need to continue to be the Rams, as in sign those big players, because I think
Oh yeah,
like Stafford, you're going to need somebody to back him up sooner or later. You're going to need someone to replace Odell, and you don't do it through the draft with all those draft picks that they lost. So
yeah, that's
you
true.
look for someone that's similar. It as Odell, as much as Odell is great for that team, his injuries, I mean, again,
Yeah,
3 to 5 years.
you got injuries, then you got his price tag, which is
Yeah,
hefty at this point, being the
yeah,
veteran that he is and the guy and the way that he's produced.
yeah,
So that's one position that I think the Rams need to focus on is wide receiver.
yeah,
Because you had Robert Woods go down with a season-ending injury, and I'm not sure where they are with his contract either. Then you brought in OBJ, but he's going to be a free agent, and you still have Cooper Kupp, who is
yeah,
amazing. You have Van Jefferson, who has showed a lot this season, but I think you need to figure out what you're going to do with
yeah,
the two receivers that you have on injured reserve, who may or may not be walking out the door as free agents.
yeah,
Because Robert Woods has been very productive for them, but he's also a little older. He's also a little bit more banged up, and
yeah,
he's going to cost more. Uh, and I say this with all the respect in the world, being the Merc hunters that the Rams are, it would not surprise me if they were to let both of these guys go and focus on signing a guy like Chris Godwin from Tampa.
yeah. Well, I just
Because
put
he's younger, he's bigger, he's faster, and he's probably going to come at the same price, if not cheaper, than OBJ.
Yeah. Well, I just pulled up an article here. Stafford, Cup, Woods, Donald, Ramsey are under contract. The Rams will be $8 million over the cap, and they have to decide on what to do with the notable free agents: Von Miller, Odell, Sony Michel, Brian Allen, and Austin. Austin.
Yeah.
This just froze here. Oh, Corbett.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, I will say one of the easiest cuts on that list, no disrespect to him, is Sony Michel. Because when you look at the Rams' backfield, they have Darrell Henderson, who had a great year this year filling
Yeah.
in. They had Cam Akers, who came back from a
Who looked like a
season-ending injury
stud.
last
Yeah.
year and picked up kind of where he left off and should be better next year.
Yeah.
And so with two backs,
Yeah. They
you
don't
don't need
need
to
him.
pay Sony Michel. You can let him go.
Yep.
The rest of them, like Von Miller, is going to be interesting because can
Yeah.
you afford him? And if not, where does he go? And like
Yeah.
Philly got you. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Please and
uh,
thank you.
I would take him in an Eagles uniform any fucking day of the week, twice on Sunday.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he's going to be interesting. Like I know Aaron Donald is locked up, but he had talked about retiring, and even after the Super Bowl, they asked him, are you going to go out on top? And he's like, I don't know. I couldn't even make that choice right now. I'm just so excited, for Super Bowl, the whole nine.
Yeah.
I personally don't think he's going to retire.
No. They
I
still
mean,
got a great team. Why not?
they've got a great team. They have a chance to, repeat as Super Bowl champions. He may be the best defensive lineman in all of football, like at any
Yeah.
position.
Well, I mean,
Eh,
that's why Brady didn't retire, because he had a lot of the components from 2 years ago. So it just
No,
made
you're right.
sense. Yeah.
You're right. It's like Brady wins the Super Bowl and
Yeah.
everybody's coming back, and you're the Super Bowl favorites the following year. It's like, why would I leave now? But
Exactly.
then maybe as things progress and, you see
Injuries. Yeah.
Antonio Brown freak out and people get injured and, then once you get
Yeah.
to that point and you get eliminated, then
Yeah.
it's okay, maybe now's the time,
Yep.
but you're absolutely right. When you're coming off that victory, you're looking around at the squad and you're thinking,
Yeah.
man, we can do this next year. It's very tempting to stick around. And
Yeah.
Aaron Donald is not exactly, Tom Brady age. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, yeah, he's been in the league for like 5 or 6 years, but
Yeah.
I don't think his body has been too beat up, and it
No.
certainly doesn't look like he's fallen off one
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
So having him retire at this point would be a shock to me. I mean, not completely, because we've seen
Yeah.
some guys walk away early and try to save themselves for later on in life, but it would still be a shock if Aaron Donald retired. I'm going to say that like right off the bat.
Yeah.
And then I think you can agree with me with the Bengals. First and foremost, you got to do whatever it takes to shore up that offensive line.
Yeah.
Because
That's
unlike
just-
the Rams, the guys they have are pretty much all under contract. Like Joe Mixon ain't going anywhere. Joe Burrow's still in his rookie deal. Jamar Chase, same thing. T. Higgins, same thing. All the big pieces of that team
Yeah.
are locked up for the next few years. So whether it's the draft, free agency, both, I don't care which, you have to do whatever you need to do to protect Joe Burrow, because no one has ever been sacked in a postseason more than Joe Burrow was this year.
Yeah.
Nobody. And it almost cost you the game against Tennessee. It did cost you the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So regardless of, if you get back or whatever, if you want to continue to win and you want this young quarterback to continue to progress the way he is, because Joe Burrow is slowly, not even slowly, he's quickly becoming an elite quarterback. You've got to find him linemen that can keep him on his feet in the pocket. Plain and simple. He already went down with a knee injury because your offensive line is rookie year. Then he got beat to holy hell, and I didn't even know it was an issue, but apparently his other knee was injured in the Super Bowl, and they said that won't require surgery. You cannot have your quarterback going down with knee injuries every 3 to 4 months. That's what happened to Carson Palmer.
Yeah.
And Cincinnati I know they weren't a Super Bowl team, but they were on their way there, and Carson Palmer just kept getting his knees taken out because their offensive line was garbage.
Awful. Yeah.
And it stunted his career, and it stunted their growth as a franchise. It set them back.
Yeah.
So you've obviously learned from mistakes to get to this point. So you got to continue to learn from those mistakes and just flat out fix that offensive line, whatever you have to do.
Yeah. I think that's it. I mean, you said it perfectly. They still got the rookies. They still got a lot of people under the contract and they've been building for so long that they have the opportunity to have these young players in their prime who are performing as well as you want them to perform. So offensive line, yes, that's 110%.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's much more you can do. I mean, maybe get a better backup for Mixon, but that's just nitpicking here.
Yeah. And on top of that, the only other thing I can think of was because last year you let go of a guy who was your third down guy, your change of pace back, Gio Bernard. He ended up going to Tampa playing with Brady. And you replaced him with like Samaje Perine or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You need to find a better backup running back. Because part of that, regardless of the fourth down play and Burrow getting hit as he throws and everything else, he got the ball out there, and it looked like Samaje Perine just kind of gave up. He just stopped mid-route, and the ball went by him. It's like, dude.
Yeah.
Like this is not, no, this is not the time. This is the opposite of the time. It's fourth down in the Super Bowl with the game on the line. You run that route, you dive, you do whatever you got to do to get your hands on that ball at least. And if you don't bring it in, oh well. But you don't just stop.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we both said it. There needs to be that presence if it's similar to a back that we have, like Howard, or there's a back that, is a little more athletic, I guess you could say, but
Yeah.
wanting to win the game. I don't know what he did in that position, in that play that, didn't allow
Yeah,
him
I
to
mean,
catch the ball, but you're right. It seemed like maybe he didn't know what he could have done or what he needed to get done.
I'll put it like this because, and I know I'm obsessed with the Eagles Super Bowl team, but it makes sense. The Eagles had, they traded for Jay Ajayi, they had LeGarrette Blount, they had all the, but then they got a guy like Corey Clement
Yep.
late in the draft, or maybe even just got him in training camp and signed him as a free agent. And
Yeah.
this guy was a change of pace back. He was a receiver. He was, kind of jack of all trades kind of back like Gio Bernard was.
Yeah.
And it just added that extra wrinkle to the offense. And they did not have that this year. And when they tried to go to it at the end of that Super Bowl,
Yeah.
it kind of cost them.
Yeah.
So you need to have somebody like that. Even if you want a guy, I mean, I know he's in Dallas now, and I don't know how long they'll keep him, but if Corey Clement's a free agent, sign that dude.
Yeah. I mean,
he's going to do a hell of a lot better than Samaje Perine. He's got a ring on his finger.
Yeah. I mean, there is not as many possibilities this year when it comes to free agents, but you can find someone, and I think they have that type of umph now that they're made it to the Super Bowl, that it's appealing for someone to go there. So it could happen. I think, again, we're nitpicking here. I think the offensive line is the biggest issue.
Yeah, no, that's first and foremost. But isn't it amazing to utter the phrase, it's appealing to play for the Cincinnati Bengals?
Exactly. I think that's enough said right there.
That says enough about like their front office and their, top to bottom, their staff.
Yep.
That like it should not be hard for you to add the pieces you need to this team because you've already built it back to the point where we are now saying it is appealing to play for the Bengals. I can't remember the last year anybody could say that.
Exactly.
So, it was a tremendous season, build on that, and I'm sure everything will be fine. Now, last topic I have before we get up out of here for the week. Thank God, like we're in the home stretch.
Come on,
all this podcasting, and
we
finally made it. I brought it up a little bit with the NBA, saying 20 of the 30 teams are going to have a playoff opportunity. You look at that, and then you look at the NFL, and they expanded their playoffs, and the first round was just all blowouts, and from then on, it was tight field goal overtime games.
Yeah.
Baseball kind of gets the same way, where some team blows out somebody in a playoff in a play-in game, and then ends up like getting blown out in their first series against the team that made the playoffs.
Yep.
Have sports organizations just absolutely overinflated their playoff systems? Like, do we need to scale back on how many teams actually can be considered playoff teams? Because are we in a moment where it's like now everyone gets a trophy?
Yeah, I mean, what was it? 2 years ago, the Marlins are now, Miami's team, whatever, or Florida's team. I don't know their names. I forget off the top of my head. But even I think it was 2 years ago, they were in contention, and now they're back to being Miami. So I get it. I get it from a business standpoint. Again, like we said last week, put your business cap on and think about the situation. Of course they want more money. Of course they want more views on TV. Of course they want their names to be out there. So yes, absolutely. If I was a business owner and if I had an NFL team, yes, I would want it. Absolutely. I would extend it through the whole entire year, the whole whatever, as much money as I could make. But as a fan, I kind of like it. I kind of like the Miami underdog story, even though they made it because of somebody else. Maybe they weren't as great as a team as
Yeah.
they should have been in order to make the playoffs or be in contention. It was still fun. So yeah, I mean, I don't think. I mean, I guess we'll have to see in 5 to 10 years how it impacted the league when it comes to injuries and stuff like that. But as of right now, I love it. I love seeing the
Yeah.
underdog story. I think that's where they make the money. And as a fan, I enjoy. That's why I was pulling for Cincy. Even
Yeah,
though,
that's
yeah,
true. That's true.
yeah,
But that's what I'm talking about when you look at the tail end of the playoffs.
yeah,
Like when it comes to the NBA, I understood why they did it in the first year because it was during pandemic. They had a bubble going on. So if you're going to invite these teams out, then you
yeah,
might as well add some extra playoff teams and give them some incentive to actually show up
yeah,
because that's a lot to ask players to ask from players that may be coming in and playing 5 games and going home. So instead, you expand the playoffs so these teams can come in, stay there, maybe have a shot at a championship and give more incentive. I
yeah,
understood it then. I don't understand it now. If we're, supposedly back to normal, like we almost are with sporting events, why are we not back to the top 8 teams make the playoffs? Like, fuck these playing games. Like, it was one thing when you needed these teams to come out to your bubble and make sacrifices just to play the game.
yeah,
Now that we're on the road, you're traveling, you're in your house, there is no bubble. I think now you need to cut it back because 2/3 of your team being in the playoffs is ridiculous.
yeah.
That's just flat out. Now with the NFL, I mean it's not as bad. You're getting 14 out of 32.
Yeah,
But when you looked at those first round matchups, like I love the Eagles, and we know Nick does.
yeah,
It proved they did not belong in the playoffs.
yeah. I mean, you could say the same thing with the Raiders too.
Yeah, but at least the Raiders lost in a close game. Eagles got the doors beat off of them.
Yeah,
It was
Patriots as
pathetic.
well.
Yeah, there were some teams that made it in as those low wild card seeds that just got the shit kicked out of them in the first round of the playoff.
Perfect example: the Steelers. They had no right, and I even think Ben said we have no right in so many words. We have no right being here. So yeah, to
Yeah,
that,
he said something along the lines of it's a miracle that we're a playoff team this year.
yeah. So yes, I agree with you, but I enjoy it. I think it's
But that's
smart.
as a fan of the Eagles, especially watching that blowout in
Oh,
Tampa,
yeah.
I'm like, oh
I didn't
man,
I didn't
I'd have rather stayed at home. Like
Yeah.
we don't need to be a playoff team. The draft pick gets higher. We don't have to see this misery. Like we're good.
yeah.
But it happened anyway, and at that point you can just cut it off.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to, and I'm sure there were Steelers fans or Patriot fans.
Money.
You didn't get to hear, like we did show with Bruce and Ivan last week. You didn't get to hear how thoroughly upset Bruce was at that beatdown loss that the Patriots took to the Bills. I mean, I was afraid I was going to take his belt and shoelaces. No lie. He was fucking depressed.
Yeah.
And if that's what the fan base of a team is going to feel like after, the 7 seed gets into the playoffs, then eliminate the 7 seed altogether.
Yeah.
Because then you're left with what we had after that, which was close field goal overtime games all the way through to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yep.
So you get what is essentially playoff caliber football. So I think in football you do it. In basketball, you definitely do it. Baseball, sometimes the playing team will actually like make it to a World Series. I don't think they've ever won a championship, but they've made it to a World Series. So if you want to leave that, okay, you've got bigger worries at this point. You've already gotten rid of steroid testing. You haven't worked out a collective bargaining agreement. So yeah, you ain't got time to worry about playoffs.
Yeah.
But in the NBA, you got to cut that shit back. In the NFL, you got to cut that shit back.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing. I get what you're saying from an owner standpoint. Like, oh, the extra revenue coming in for a playoff game is too hard to resist, and I get that. I really do.
Yeah.
But from a fan standpoint, like if you're a part of that fan base and you're watching that beatdown on a Saturday, Sunday afternoon,
it's tough.
You don't want to see it. You'd rather not see it at all. Just stay home. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I agree with you to an extent when it comes to being a fan and watching your team get absolutely destroyed. It's not fun, but that's it.
No, no, that's what I mean. If all the games were as closely contested, as they were beyond the wild card week, I
Yeah.
would have been totally fine with it. But those beatdowns was like, oh no, we don't need another team in the playoffs. You can forget that. Just go back to 6.
Yeah. I agree there.
And with that, we're out of here. Nick, do you want to plug?
Yes. I'll be quick. UWPod.com is where you can find us on Twitter and on and on Instagram. It's UW Podcast. We do have a fancy website. Go check us out. We just released our chamber predictions. You can go back and make fun of us for all the shitty picks that we picked. But it was a hell of a show. It was really fun. So go listen to it and be on the lookout for the new episode with the former WWE creative writer Chris Dunn. Blah, blah,
That's
blah.
going to be cool.
Yeah.
The first one was cool. So
yeah.
Yep. UWPod.com. Check them out. Honestly, Nick does one of the best wrestling shows out there.
Thank you.
And we have a wrestling show on this channel. If you're listening to us on our many podcast platforms, please come to TRWT_ a Fox Den John and subscribe. You're going to get the Sports Syndicate. You're going to get Top Rope. You're going to get a few other little monthly shows that Bruce and I do. You're going to get some exclusive content that you don't get on audio platforms. If you want to find this show, as I said, you can pretty much listen wherever pods are available. But if you want to see everything, go to anchor.fm/FoxDen. You're going to see the rundown of every Fox Den production. You're going to see every platform that you can go through and listen there if you prefer. Just find us, rate us, give us your reviews, share us around too. Help us grow this shit a little bit. And that's all I'm going to say for now. So for Nick, I'm the Psycho. We will catch you next week. Everybody enjoy the rest of your weekend. Stay safe out there. Happy President's Day if you celebrate it. I don't even know how you celebrate that, folks. I can't even lie. But either way, enjoy your weekend, and we will see you later.